How to fix the reboot reboot. I come from the net, through Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, to this place, YouTube. My format? Content creator. To educate, complain, and share the pain of my newfound friends. Shattered hopes, broken dreams, ruined childhoods 'cause of their enemies. I really hope that the trailer was a bad indication of things to come, because we do know that hexadecimal and megabyte are in it, and hexadecimal looks pretty good actually. As far as the plot of live-action teenagers going into a cyber world, a lot has been said already. PC Power Rangers, Tron, VR Troopers, Zix, Code Lyoko Evolution, Superhuman Samurai Cyber Squad, starring that kid from Miss Doubtfire. It's nothing new or groundbreaking story-wise. It's all been done before. But what did we expect? I watched the trailer in the last video, but I didn't want to leave it on a sour note. I believe in constructive criticism. It's easy to hate on something and just be an angry critic, but it's much harder to put a positive spin on things. So let's go back in time to set the scene. The internet was a new thing at that time, and megabyte was this scary, intimidating sounding name. But nowadays, even a gigabyte of phone data is seen as being on the low end. Megabyte just doesn't hold the same power anymore. The beauty about Reboot is it was way ahead of its time. The terms they used, they weren't even in the public lexicon yet. These days, we feel like we're all pretty tech savvy, and we can't imagine a show actually teaching us anything about technology. So I started thinking, what would an ideal modern reboot look like? What would a modern version cover that we don't know already, showing us new technology that we don't understand yet, and actually making us feel empathy for sprites, nulls, and NPCs in general? That's what Reboot did so well. As kids, a lot of us thought, what if this was actually true? What if every time I beat a boss or beat a level, that NPC turned into a null or even was deleted entirely? Did that NPC have a family? It made some of us actually question the morality of taking a life in a video game. That was some powerful stuff. Wreck-It Ralph actually briefly touched on that. They showed us that these NPCs have a life outside of the video game. But it was a kid's movie, there weren't really any heavy consequences. And then it clicked when the phone turned off. Black Mirror. These concepts of cookies or digital clones, these avatars having real emotions and virtual human rights abuses, really made you have empathy for them. And if you haven't seen it, especially at the end of the 4th season, episode 1, the Star Trek one, if it hasn't clicked already, that very last scene of the Star Trek episode was the closest thing that we've had to a modern reboot. Think about it. Their life on that ship actually has consequences. When they encounter the real human player, he essentially is the user. He inputs games for pleasure. He's an ambivalent god that's unpredictable. To him, it's fun to destroy an entire ship just for fun.
So we're gonna blow each other or we're gonna trade?
Huh.
Get the hell out of my quadrant or I'll blast you to shit. You got 10.
It's just a game, so if he loses, press continue, restore a safe state, even build a new character. But to the people on that ship, that's their whole life. So if the game's over, that's it, they're over. So how does this tie in exactly to the live action portion of Guardian Code? Promised you a solution, and this is how we could fix it. The show will start like season 1 of the original in a cheesy, kid-friendly trajectory. Throw in a guitar duel for good measure. And then it goes darker, more mature themes. As the kids grow up with it, they'll start to appreciate those darker themes, because then it's no longer a kids show, which is why we love it. Now this is where it gets interesting. End it on a cliffhanger where one of the live human characters gets stuck in the virtual world. With the knowledge and know-how of how a user thinks, and having this information about a user, to all the NPCs, he's a demigod. He's
a half god. He's Hercules of the digital world for them. Then this brings us back to that classic plot of the Guardian protecting the NPCs from the user, and the user made viruses. If the show wanted to be relevant, it could tackle topics like loot crates, cryptocurrencies. Imagine the NPCs having access to real world money and cryptocurrency. And now these users want to invade their homeland for their resources. Social commentary, anyone? That Jesse Pinkman loser stereotype gamer at the end of that Star Trek episode from Black Mirror, you did an amazing job of how the user acts in the modern virtual environment.
Run! You better run. King of Space right here.
King of Space.
In the 90s, we didn't have voice chats and trash talking, so the user had no voice, and it made sense for the show at the time. But over the years, gamers have built all these new habits, and every single one of those could be a whole new episode. There could be an episode about noobs learning the game controls and having just this sprite just keep hitting the wall or not know how to jump or keep falling in a lava pit. Or
touching it, then jump and touch, jump and touch, jump, crouch and touch, jump, crouch and touch.
Things like that. Or maybe griefing, like killing his own team just to troll. Like imagine what like a Bob Guardian character would react to that. That would be hilarious. Or think about like an RPG episode where there's all these characters farming or grinding, doing these menial tasks for days and days. Or imagine an episode about completionist gamers where they go out and don't beat the game, so the game is never over, but they will help every single NPC. And now we have this like jealousy story where do the NPCs love the Guardian or do they love the user? Because the user is kind of helping out the NPCs a little bit more because he's getting all these badges and trophies for his side quests. I think you get the point. It wouldn't tie in directly with the original, but it would give us that feeling of NPCs and Guardian versus the user, which was the essence of the show that we loved. It made the show that much more memorable because we were taking the NPC side, and the user, who was us, was the bad guy. I suppose they could do a time-traveling episode and end up in the 90s. Then you have this millennial Guardian trying to use all this 90s technology and 90s tech lingo, and he's lost, fish out of water kind of situation. Not to mention how slow everything is and how bad the graphics were. So anywho, what do you think of this potential alternate version of the Guardian Code? Would you watch this reboot? I know I would. Probably at least till season 3, and then it'll go south. Well, I hope this gave you some positive vibes on what the show could have been. And who knows, if their show bombs and this video does really good, maybe someone will take this idea and actually turn it into something, and we'll finally get the reboot that we've been waiting 20 years for. They say the creators of the Guardian Code never actually watched an episode of Reboot, and they just took over a fan-loved IP for money. No one knows for sure, but I intend to find out. Reboot! Hidden file commands. You gotta love them. If you enjoyed this episode, give this a like. I wasn't expecting the last random trailer reaction to actually get some good responses, but you never know with these things, so maybe I'll express my opinion on more geek culture, because I do cosplay photography, I attend the Comic Cons and all that, I enjoy geek culture, but I never really talk about it. So if you guys enjoy it, I'll keep talking about it. Be sure to subscribe.